10 inescapable prisons people somehow escaped from. You will never guess what the number 1 prison escape is. Like and subscribe for weekly videos. In the comments below, list one topic you think should be in a top 10 video and comment if you subscribe to this channel. Prisons are all about keeping people inside, but every now and again, folks find their way out. It happens more often than you might think, but nevertheless, there are some institutions touted as being inescapable, such that there is no conceivable way for anyone to escape. The only problem is that people inevitably do escape from those very same prisons. The ones nobody ever thought could be broken out of were, and in some cases, the daring escapes of inmates are some of the most amazing prison break stories of all time. 10 Leeds Prison. Doge's Palace, Venice, Italy, 1756. The Italian explorer, creator, and famous playboy Giacomo Casanova was once held in the notorious Leeds jail for being an attack against religion and normal tolerability. He was set there following his capture on July 26, 1755, at 30 years old, yet he had no goal of staying in jail for exceptionally long. In the wake of being prevented a preliminary or a clarification from getting his charges, he was condemned to 5 years detainment yet arranged to break through a maverick cleric in an adjoining cell. The minister utilized a spike from the seat in Casanova's cell to tunnel an opening in the roof. He crept into it and did likewise in Casanova's, which gave him an exit plan. He gave up a scared cellmate and a note saying, "I will not pass on, however live," and an ounce crafted by the Lord. Through some housetop gymnastics, craftiness, and a randomly positioned stepping stool, the pair got away. Casanova nitty-gritty his detained experience 30 years after the fact in his work, Story of My Flight. 9 Imrali Prison. Sea of Marmara, Turkey, 1975. Back in the 1940s, foreign governments began cracking down on drug smugglers by imposing harsh prison sentences. Billy Hayes was a young American student when he was picked up for smuggling 1.8 kilograms, 4 pounds, of hashish in Turkey. 2 months prior to his release, and after having served nearly 4 years, he learned that his sentence would be increased to life, and he was moved to a psychiatric prison hospital. Eventually, his sentence was reduced to 30 years, and he was moved to Imrali Prison on July 11, 1975, but he would only remain there for a few months before escaping. On October 2, 1975, in what amounted to his 4th attempt, Hayes escaped the island prison by stealing a rowboat, which he took to Bandima. He was able to hide with some locals before heading from there to Greece, but was deported from there to Frankfurt, Germany, where he was held for a few weeks before finally gaining his freedom. Hayes wrote an account of his escape in his book, Midnight Express, which was adapted into a film of the same name by Alan Parker and Oliver Stone. 8 Libby Prison. Richmond, Virginia, 1864. The Civil War battled in the United States was scandalous for the awful jail conditions present all through both the Union and Confederate states. Andersonville in the South was notable for the detachment it had in treating its detainees, however no one prevailing with regards to getting away from that barricade. The equivalent can't be said for Libby Prison in Richmond, which had its solitary jail break in 1864, and it was a doozy. In February 1864, an aggregate of 109 Union officials figured out how to escape in what got known as the Libby Prison Escape. The escape was driven by Colonel Thomas E. Rose of the 77th Pennsylvania Infantry, who guided his court subordinates to burrow underneath the wandering Confederate gatekeepers. The passage was burrowed to a length of exactly 15 meters, 50 feet, and rose into an empty parcel close to a distribution center. Since no one accepted the jail could be gotten away from, the gatekeepers scarcely paid any notification to the scores of men developing through an entryway in the contiguous part. The caution wasn't raised for an additional 12 hours, leaving half of the escapees all that anyone could need time to make it to the Union lines. 7 The Tower of London, England, 1597. John Gerard was a Jesuit priest who worked covertly during the Elizabethan era due to the persecution placed upon the workers of the Catholic Church at that time. He was notable for being able to elude capture by English authorities for nearly a decade, but he ultimately found his way to the infamous Tower of London, where he was subjected to extensive torture for his purported crimes. The Tower is well known as an inescapable prison which many people entered and never left, but that can't be said for Gerard. On the night of October 3, 1597, Gerard escaped the Tower in an incredible plot orchestrated by Nicholas Owen, a famous sainted Jesuit best known as Little John. With his help and others from the Catholic underground, a rope was sent up the tower to Gerard's location. Despite having his hands mangled from torture, he managed to climb down and cross the moat, becoming one of only a few people to manage that feat. After escaping to mainland Europe, Gerard wrote a book about his torture and escape called John Gerard, the autobiography of an Elizabethan. 6 Camp 14 North Korea, 2005. The Democratic People's Republic of Korea, better referred to all through the world as North Korea, is infamous for being one of the most dictator governments on earth. As a result of the structure of the fascism, individuals have practically zero rights, and the individuals who are detained end up in work camps, which regularly sum to capital punishments because of the cruel conditions and absence of food. The individuals in these concealed gulags are denied to try and exist by the administration, and few actually leave the camps. Shin Dong-hyuk is the main individual known to be conceived in a jail camp, get away from it, and get by to tell the world his trial. His entire life, he was famished, tormented, and compelled to work, yet to top it all off, he was made to watch the execution of his mom and brother. When he was 23 years of age, he moved through a high-voltage fence and disappeared to China, at that point South Korea, lastly the United States. His astounding trial was archived in Blaine Harden's book, Escape from Camp 14, One Man's Remarkable Odyssey from North Korea to Freedom in the West. 5. The Bastille, Paris, France, 1465. The Bastille is one of the most infamous prisons in the world. It was famously stormed by a riotous crowd on July 14, 1789, in an event that is still commemorated annually as Bastille Day throughout France. The Bastille was used by the kings of France as a state prison, and it was well known as being a place nobody could ever escape from. Despite that assertion, a very small number of people managed to escape over the centuries when luck and the conditions were just right. One such escapee was Antoine de Chabannes, Count of Damartin. During the reign of Louis XI, the Bastille was used as a state penitentiary. Antoine de Chabannes, the Count of Damartin, was being held by Louis due to his membership in the League of the Public Weal, a group of nobles who defied the authority of the king. In March 1465, the Count managed to escape by boat and rejoin the League. Later that year, the League and the King signed the Treaty of Conflans, which put an end to the dispute between the various noblemen and the King. 4. La Santé Prison, Paris, France, 1986. Speaking of inescapable French prisons, La Santé Prison, in the east of the Montparnasse district of Paris, is one of the most infamous prisons in France, and its location puts it right inside the city limits. Since the prison went into use in 1867, there have been 3 escapes in total. In 1927, one man got out viaduct to false order of release, and in 1978, a man was killed trying to escape. The real story of a daring escape from the prison came in 1986, when Michael Vourgeois managed to escape with the help of his wife, Nadine. This wasn't one of those back the van up to the prison wall kind of escapes, either. It involved a helicopter. While Michael was serving a lengthy term for murder and armed robbery, Nadine Vourgeois began to take flying lessons under a false name. She then took a helicopter and flew it over the prison, where Michael managed to make it to a roof and cling to the skid as the helicopter flew away. He remained a free man until a gunshot to the head during a robbery months later sent him back for the next 27 years. 3. Louins Prison, France, 2001. It might appear to be insane to discover that somebody utilized a helicopter to escape from a jail, however it's not as uncommon as you might suspect. At times, it's basically the business as usual for detainees like Pascal Pouillet, a man who got away from Luton's prison by means of helicopter and helped other people get away from twice. Luynes prison is a greatest security office situated in the south of France, and keeping in mind that it is promoted as unpreventable, in all actuality it's had a few fruitful breaks. Pouillet figured out how to escape by means of a helicopter in 2001, however that is by all account not the only piece of the story, since 2 years after the fact, he broke into the jail through helicopter to help break out a portion of his pals. Eventually, the law found him once more, and he was tossed back behind bars. He was moved to a jail in Grasse, where he was held in isolation. On account of Bastille Day festivities, 4 of his mates figured out how to seize a helicopter, which they used to free him a third time. The men fled, leaving the pilot safe. Pouillet was at last caught, once more, in Spain and stays detained in a mystery area someplace in France. 2 Stalag Luft 3 Poland, 1944. During World War II, the Luftwaffe ran a prisoner of war, POW, camp in Sagan, Poland, called Stalag Luft 3. The camp was used to house POWs captured from Allied countries, with most coming from the United Kingdom. The site was selected due to the presence of sandy soil, which was believed to make tunneling impossible. Despite all the preparations the Germans made to the camp, a tunnel proved the best way to get out, but it required a great deal of work, stolen supplies, and a lot of secrecy among the prison population. British prisoners managed to dig 3 tunnels, named Tom, Dick, and Harry, for the escape. Tom was found and destroyed by the Germans, while Dick was used to store soil and supplies. Harry became the main route of escape for 76 men who managed to crawl through the tunnel, which measured 102 meters, 335 feet, long and only 0.6 meters, 2 feet, square. Because of the condition of the soil, it had to be dug 9 meters, 30 feet, below the surface. The escape from Stalag Luft 3 was depicted in the hit 1963 film The Great Escape. 1 Alcatraz, San Francisco, California, 1962. Alcatraz is well known for being inescapable, but that's not entirely accurate. The prison dealt with a number of escape attempts over the years, but none so infamous as the one that occurred in 1962, when John and Clarence Anglin joined up with Frank Morris to escape. The prisoners fashioned models of their heads with toilet paper, toothpaste, human hair, and concrete dust, which they placed in their bunks to make it look like they were sleeping. This fooled the guards' night check long enough for them to make their escape. They all ducked through the small opening in the back of their cells and managed to escape into a utility tunnel. From there, they snuck out of the building and made it off the island. The official word is that the 3 men died in the icy waters of San Francisco Bay, but there are many who believe they are still alive. There have been stories of sightings of the men over the years, all of whom would be in their late 80s or early 90s by 2019. Even if the men died, they still managed to escape from the most inescapable prison ever constructed, and their daring feat was turned into the popular Clint Eastwood film Escape from Alcatraz in 1979.